that in turn will help you grow your business, because then they're going to tell someone else of how good of a job that you did. And it's just going to bring more revenue to you and more business and more happy customers. And so ultimately it's all tied in together.
Welcome to the Side-HustlHER Podcast, the podcast for women building their dreams while balancing work, family, and all the things. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, a wife, mom, marketer, and your side hustling friend here to teach you how to grow a brand that works for you and not the other way around. Whether you're a side hustling pro or just starting out, this is your safe place for real talk, actionable strategies, and the encouragement you need to keep going. We're here to help you make progress and not perfection. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's build your dream one step at a time. Hello, and welcome back to the Side-HustlHER Podcast. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, and I'm so excited to have you here on today's episode because this is a full circle moment for me because I get to sit down with someone who has unknowingly helped me to get my systems life together during a pivotal time in my journey, and that is my friend, Kenniqua Lewter. Kenniqua is a wife, a mom, and a HoneyBook expert. She's a systems strategist and the host of the Rehab podcast, but she's known for helping service-based entrepreneurs organize and automate their back end so that they can confidently serve their dream clients without the burnout. And let me tell you, honey, I remember when I was first starting my business and I was binge watching all of her YouTube videos while setting up my HoneyBook system step by step. And now she's on my podcast. Wild. But in this episode, we're going to be diving into how systems can do more for you than just make your life easier, but they can actually help you hit your goals, create capacity, and stop leaving money on the table. So whether you're drowning in client work, still doing everything manually, or you just don't know where to start, then this conversation is going to be for you because it's packed with gems to help you move from hustle to streamline. Let's get started. Before we dive into today's episode, I have something special for all of my side hustlers out there. Are you building a business while working a 9-to-5 and you're tired of wasting time on marketing strategies that don't actually move the needle? Then you're going to want to get plugged into my weekly newsletter. Every single week, I'm giving you the real behind-the-scenes scoop on what's actually working in marketing and business. No fluff, no gatekeeping, just real strategies, insights I'm testing in my own business, and practical tips that you can apply right away. If you want to work smarter and not harder and finally start seeing momentum, then head over to cdcreativecoagency.com/newsletter and get locked in. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. All right. Well, hello, Kenniqua, and welcome to the Side-HustlHER Podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here because I was just sharing on my story that Kenniqua has been such a pivotal person in my entrepreneurship journey. I remember when I was first switching over my CRM to HoneyBook, and I was really looking for people to kind of like walk me through on how to set it up. So I remember sitting down for several nights during the break where I was just watching your videos and going step by step to setting up my HoneyBook. So this has been like a full circle moment to have you here. And I'm super excited to talk all things about systems and how we can be more efficient and simplify our systems in our life and our business. So thank you so much for taking out the time to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And that's so funny because when you reached out to me, or I think I just made a comment on one of your threads posts, I think you were like a Flow Desk partner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing that you were able to go through and get your system set up, like you said, off of those videos. And sometimes I feel like, are people actually watching the video?
Yeah.
And so that was really good to kind of tie an actual face to someone who can take action and was viewing the video. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yes, I love being able to just give you your flowers because, you know, even when we were talking about on threads where you were saying, you know, sometimes you're putting out the content, but you don't actually get to see people that reap the fruit of your labor. And so I always just want to make sure that I'm giving you and many other people who have helped me out on this entrepreneurship journey their flowers, because it's not easy when you're always putting out content and you don't know if you're actually like touching people. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit before we get started. But for the people that are listening that do not know who you are, I want you to share a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you started your business.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a wife, a mother. I help online service providers organize and automate their systems to help them simplify their business and their life and confidently serve dream clients. So we're all about client experience over here. And so I started my business, which is kind of funny because I have had different versions of my business. When I first started my business, well, first off, just to backtrack just a little bit, is that I have been in the call center industry for about 13 years. I worked at a call center, I worked for UPS call center. And so I already had the customer service skills. So that's where like the customer service and making sure client experience was always at a higher level because that's what I've done majority of my life.
Yeah.
And so then when I started my business, I originally started my business as a virtual assistant because I knew that I wanted to start a business because I was tired of being in working in the actual call center, but I wasn't really too sure exactly what I was going to offer. So I figured I could just call myself a virtual assistant and I could just offer a whole bunch of different things that I could just do. And from there, I started to evolve and just realize, okay, well, I don't like doing this. So let's start scratching that off the list. And then eventually I just kind of went through and started honing in mostly on systems and then website design. So I did that for a really long time. Like, so I've been doing systems website design probably for about the last 4 years or so until recently just saying, okay, I'm just going to go all in and just systems because I find that is so important. And so many entrepreneurs, sometimes I think our back end systems are just not where we want them to be. And I rather just be like the advocate for let's get our systems together instead of like worried about there's so many website designers, let them do websites, but let's talk about the systems part of it. And so so that's why it just gradually over the years just started cutting it down to what I really am very much passionate about because systems allows for business owners to not only make the money that they want to make, but it does give them the freedom and it helps you to be able to serve your clients.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too, winded on it, but a lot of the times, like I said, coming from a customer service standpoint, a lot of times, like I'm always telling my husband, like, man, it seems like customer service is just going down the drain. And so I don't understand because that's what I've been doing this whole time is doing customer service. But I really want that to be in the forefront of people's mind that if you can give people good customer service, good service, that in turn will help you grow your business because then they're going to tell someone else of how good of a job that you did. And it's just going to bring more revenue to you and more business and more happy customers. And so ultimately it's all tied in together.
Yeah. No, that's such a good thing because going back to what you're saying about pivoting and then really just finding a place where there was a need, but also a place where you thrive. I think even just you niching down in the systems area really makes you stand out because, like you said, a lot of people are doing the web design and all the other things, but there's not a lot of people that really help you to automate and to build these systems that work behind the scenes for you and your brand while you're doing other things, while you're, maybe working a full-time job or maybe you're a full-time parent. So I really love the fact that you found an area to niche down in where you can feel the need for a lot of people and then also really help them to be able to build that customer service aspect in their business as well, because that's important. So before we get into that, before we get into the nitty gritty of the systems that you help build out, I want to talk about why systems matter more than having goals, because a lot of people have goals to hit, certain revenue goals or to have so many clients. But in order for you to be able to hit those goals, you have to have systems in place to be able to sustain that type of workload. How do systems help build entrepreneur, or how do systems help entrepreneurs achieve their goals in their business, whether that's revenue or any of the other goals that they have?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of times when we think about goals are pretty much this overarching thing that we obviously that we want to achieve. But the reason why systems are important when it comes to this is because that is typically the vehicle to help you to actually achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So, for example, a lot of people come into the new year, I want to lose weight. And so the losing weight, that's your goal. Or you might even say, okay, well, I'm going to be more, I'm going to say I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay, that's your goal. And normally the goal is not something that normally changes. There's nothing wrong with saying I want to lose 30 pounds, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is when there's no system, and this is just life systems, when there's no system put in place to actually get to the weight loss goal, then you'll normally will fall off. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be something as simple as we know the actions that it takes to lose weight. Like, so we know we have to eat healthy. More
Mm-hmm.
likely than not, you have to work out. These are the things you drink plenty of water. You know these things. But the
Mm-hmm.
how you're going to do those things is where the systems come in, because the
Yeah.
systems are simply just the processes that you take and the actions that you take to get to that goal. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to do something like lose weight and you want to eat healthy, maybe you need to put a system in place for doing meal prepping, for doing
Mm-hmm.
shopping, for even putting out your clothes at night to make sure that you wake up early, enough to do your workout. So those actions and those systems that you put into place will help you to go through and reach your goals. And that's the same with business as well. We all have these goals like, I want to get more clients. Well, how are you going to get more clients? What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do every single day or every single week to make sure that you actually hit that goal? And so that's why a lot of times people end up falling off or not reaching those goals,
Yeah.
is because they don't put the system or the processes behind it to actually go through and reach it.
Yeah, that's really good. Have you ever found yourself stuck on what to post or struggling to stay consistent on social media? I've been there, and that's exactly why I created this free guide called 30 Days of Done For You Social Media Prompts for Personal Brands. This guide is loaded with prompts to get your gears turning so you can have a gallery of content to create for your brand and never stress about what to post again. And you can grab it right now at cdcreativecoagency.com/content and start creating content that connects without the stress. And so, with that being said, with someone that is starting out, typically in this, my audience is mostly consumed of side hustling entrepreneurs. A lot of them have full-time jobs. A lot of them are also moms. So what do you feel are 3 key systems that you would start to recommend those entrepreneurs start to implement in their business?
Yeah, so somebody that's just starting out, and like you said, maybe moms are still working a full-time job. One of the main systems I would probably suggest would be first a time management system. So like,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to balance it all? So it's easy to say that, okay, I'm going to work on my business after I get off of work. So you're working a 9 to 5, you're going to say, I'm going to take that 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to go through and work on your business. But in reality, is that something you can actually do without a
Mm-hmm.
system in place? So what that will look like as far as your time management is that you get home. So maybe you had to meal prep your dinner, because if
Mm-hmm.
you come home and now you have to cook dinner and then get the kids ready to go to bed, how much time are you going to have left to actually work on your business? But
Yeah.
if you go through and prepare yourself and manage your time to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my meal ahead of time. I'm going to maybe take an hour once I get home. Then maybe I'll, get the kids ready to go to bed. And then I'll spend the last hour or two to go through and work on my business. Then you can more likely be able to go through and do that. So definitely a time management to actually go through and block out your time and being really intentional about where you're spending your time, especially if you don't just have the whole day. It's very important. Another thing I would say is probably going to be, I would say more so probably like project management. So if you're working, especially if you're working with clients, is to have a way to be able to manage the project that's going to work for you and the time that you have allowed. So you're breaking up your projects into bite-sized pieces. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times I think people overestimate how much they can do in a said period of time. So it's like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
can build this whole website in 4 hours. Can you really actually build a whole website in 4 hours? Probably not. Not if you actually went through and you start tracking your time. So, one thing that I kind of backtracking, but one thing I always recommend to any person that's new to systems is to make sure that you track your time, because you
Mm.
never know how much, you don't truly know how much time you're spending on something unless you start tracking your time.
Mm-hmm.
So even to today, I track my time on everything that I'm doing. I use Toggle, and I go in there, and every project, everything that I do, I'm tracking my time, because I need to know how much time it's taking me to go through and to do something, whether I'm working on a project or I'm creating content. I need to know, because that data is going to help me to be able to make decisions. That data lets me know, okay, well, I know that this HoneyBook project, it took me 20 hours to do. So therefore, I know, okay, well, maybe we need to adjust the pricing, or, whatever, because it's taking a lot of time. Or it could be something as simple as, okay, maybe I'm doing editing for social media and it's taking me 10 hours a week. Well, that's too long. So now I know that I need to hire someone. So definitely having that data is helpful. So definitely going through tracking your time and using some type of time management, having some type of time management system. And I think sometimes when people think of systems, they think of software. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always have to be software. I mean, systems are merely just processes. So if you just you can even just write on a piece of paper a step by step of, when I get home, I'm going to do this time, and it's about preparing. So I'm going to do this when I get home, this time block, and then I'm going to do this, and structuring your day. So those are probably the two main things that I do recommend, is tracking your time, coming up with some type of time management system, and then also a way to go through and manage the actual project, that whatever it is that you're working on.
No, that's really good. And I really loved how you talked about tracking your time and using resources to keep track of the things that you do. Because, when you are at the beginning phase of your business and you get a client, you're not actually realizing how much time that you're spending on one project. Like, I remember even, my first one where I'm like trying to, really shoot my deliverables to my client out the park. And I realized like I had spent 5 hours editing a 1 minute reel. Like,
Yeah.
that is insane, And so it's like, if I were to think about, later on when I have several clients at that same capacity, like, how productive would I be if I continue to spend 5 hours editing one reel with adding all of these transitions and different
Mhm.
animations and, things. So I really had to take hold and realize how much time I'm spending on these projects, so that way I can realize what is my capacity. Like, if I have to spend that much time on a particular project or a particular deliverable, then how many clients can I ideally take in a month to where I'm still able to show up for my family, for my job, and for all of the other things that I have going on. So I really loved how you do that,
Mhm.
how you mentioned that, because that's something that I definitely need to start doing on my own. But I did want to talk about, for someone that's kind of like at the beginning and they're like, okay, I'm feeling inspired. Like, you're making me want to get, my systems in order for my business. And they feel overwhelmed because they don't really know where to start. And I know that you mentioned having a time management system and then also having a project management system. Can you walk us through a process on how we could actually start to set up those things? Like, for instance, a project management, maybe they are a photographer and they are trying to figure out all of the things that they have to do to bring this project to completion. How can they build out a project management system to allow them to work more efficient in their business?
Yeah, definitely. So, as far as project management, I definitely recommend as using some type of project management software or tool.
Okay.
So, for example, I like to use Asana, but there are several that you can use. I mean, there's Monday, there's ClickUp, there's Trello, so many different ones that you can use. And simply what you're doing is, you are, for managing your project, you're literally just going through and writing out each step by step, no matter how small it may be. You're writing out each step of your process, from the time that they come through the door and the time that they leave. What is everything that you need to do in order to be able to get that project done? So the beauty of that is, because once you start kind of writing that out, so And you can go deeper into it as you're writing it out. You can record like maybe like mini Loom videos or something like that for like your standard operating procedures. But what that allows for, it allows for you to then be able to ultimately, someone else can also do some of this stuff as well. So they can see, like, so for example, when we do our HoneyBook builds, we have a step-by-step project board in Asana that gives, hey, phase 1, we're doing this, phase 2, we're doing this, phase 3. We do this exact same phases and exact same steps for every single project. That way, we don't miss anything. We're going to do it the exact same way every single time.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would recommend, is just write down what you're doing for. And I like to break it up in phases because I like to kind of keep everything in one project. So phase 1 might be the inquiry phase. Phase 2 maybe onboarding. Phase 3 is maybe as you're in the weeds of the work, and maybe like phase 5, or we have like 10 phases, but then maybe you'll do like offboarding or something like that, right? Depending on what you're doing, but you're breaking it down. And then you can also see, as you're going through and you're writing this out and you're breaking it down, where can I make it more efficient? Where can I make it, more streamlined? So you might say, hey, I can maybe automate this part, or I could maybe eliminate this because maybe this doesn't make any sense. So definitely just writing it out and then using some type of project management tool that will allow for you to be able to go through and actually check these items off as you're going through them. You complete them, check them off. If it can go through, if you have a team, it can notify your team when something's done. It can set up automation and move things around. So, but if you're working by yourself, just getting started, that's where I would start as far as project management. Now, for business, another tool that I recommend, or system, would be client management, because this is where you're going to manage the clients in itself. So this would be from doing invoicing, contracts, inquiry, scheduling, having some type of system where you're handling that. That way you don't have all of these pieces just everywhere. When I first started my business, before I even had like a client management software, I was using a signing system over here, a scheduler system over there. You had stuff in Google Drive. Everything was everywhere. And it just doesn't make you as productive as you possibly could be. So as far as client management, I do use HoneyBook for client management. But like I said, there's others that you can use if you like. But having that tool or software to manage all of your clients, where they're all in one place, is going to be very helpful as well. Because then you're taking a lot off your plate, because that inquiry that comes in at 2 a.m., that you can send an automated email for that, right? Like literally our clients, they onboard themselves. And so only thing I have to do is just, okay, they put in the inquiry, they got the scheduler, they book their meeting, and they get those emails, they submit a questionnaire. All I have to do is just show up to this meeting, right? I didn't have to do anything else. And so I think it's very important to have something like that. So project management, client management, and the last one that I recommend is like having a system for the actual service delivery. So this may vary depending on what exactly that you do. But having a way that you're actually going to deliver the actual deliverables or products. So like if you're a photographer, how are you going to deliver that to the client? So sometimes you might use a software like HoneyBook is pretty good at where you can attach files and send it over to your client. But sometimes you may have to use something like Dropbox or Google Drive, depending on what it is that you do. But having that in mind of how you're going to deliver it to the client in a way that, what I would say is kind of like wow the client, like how that you just don't, okay, this is nice, it's just a whole bunch of unorganized files inside of Google Drive. Yeah, they got their deliverable, but did it actually like wow that client? Because there are so many people that people can work with nowadays. And so you want to show up your best self if all possible. So those are the 3 that I recommend anybody starting out. Like those are going to be like probably like your main 3.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Y'all already know I'm all about working smarter and not harder, especially when it comes to marketing your brand. And if you're still relying only on social media to reach your audience, we need to fix that immediately. Social media is cute, but let's be real. The algorithm is unpredictable and your content is probably only reaching a small percentage of your followers. That's why I swear by email marketing, because when I send an email, I know 100% of my subscribers are getting my messages. And the best part, Flowdesk makes it ridiculously easy. You can send beautiful on-brand emails, automate your sequences, and even create landing pages without needing to be tech savvy. And because you're listening, I got you a deal. Use my code SIDEHUSTLE at checkout and you'll get 50% off your Flowdesk subscription for the next 12 months. So if you're ready to stop relying on algorithms and start building a email list that actually converts, try Flowdesk for free. And don't forget to use the code SIDEHUSTLE at checkout for that exclusive 50% off. That's really, really good. So you hit on project management, client management, and then a service delivery system. And so I know we're going to kind of get into automations. Actually, I'm actually going to get into automations right now because you do a lot of preaching about how you can have systems in place to make more time for you to have the flexibility and freedom to do the things that you love as a busy entrepreneur. And so a lot of people are in this place, you know, trying to transition from hustling all the time and having more, and they're wanting to have more freedom and flexibility. And so I want to get into like some of the automations that people can start to implement. Maybe, you know, say for instance, people are brand new to automations. They're like, you know, I didn't even know that this is something that I could do. You know, you were talking about how you have a lot of your clients that may send an inquiry at like 2 a.m., but they have the scheduler and they get, you know, their next steps and the forms are filled out. So I want to talk about what automations do you think that are really good automations to start with, to set up the systems that they can put in place to have their business kind of running on autopilot to where there's not a lot of manual load that they have to do in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I would recommend, even before starting to just kind of jump into automation, because I do know like that's a goal for a lot of people. Like, oh, I want to have everything automated, but definitely make sure that you have your processes set up first, because your processes must be set up before you can then start going through and automating. Because if you're trying to automate and then you don't know where we're going, it's going to be harder to go through and set up your automation. So definitely have those processes set up. And I think for anyone that doesn't have any automation, is if you can do your very first one of when someone inquires to your business, that they get an automated email just to say, thank you for your inquiry. If you can do that part, that is great, because most of the time what happens is if you have no automation set up and someone inquires at 2 a.m., they don't get any response. And typically what they do is they just move on to the next person. And so they're just putting in inquiries with a lot of different people. But if you have that automation set up where it says, hey, thank you for your inquiry, here's a link to schedule a call with me. Now, what are they doing? They're taking action. They're scheduling that call. And so you're moving them down your funnel through your process that you have. So even with us, it's, hey, you know, schedule like this would be for full setups, but go through putting your inquiry, schedule your call, and then they'll get that automated email that says, you know, thank you for scheduling your call. They get all the details about the Zoom link. And so the only thing that we have to do, and we've gotten all the details about their project, about their business, all I have to do is just show up for this call, this discovery call, right? I have all the information details that I know that, hey, I know that I can help this particular client. So it's really just about, are we making a deal on this call or not? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just showing up for this call. And so I think that that is very important, but definitely have your processes in order first. And I try to tell people this is as simple as just writing it out. I mean, you can literally just write this out. Like, what is it that you want? So you can reverse engineer it to say, okay, I want my clients to get up here. I want them to do all the way up here. To get there, reverse engineer yourself, go backwards and say, what do I have to do in order to get them all the way there? So, what is your goal? And then reverse engineer to say, this is all the things that I need them to do in order to get there. But yeah, definitely for your automation, if you could just have a thank you email scheduled and some type of, depending on your process or business, if they require a discovery call, put that link in there for them to go through and book that discovery call. If you need to send out a questionnaire, you can do that as well. And that's one thing I do like about with HoneyBook, because the possibilities are endless as far as what you can go through and automate and, what you can't. And if you find out that, let's say, for example, you have some type of software, you're not sure of whether or not it can automate it, there's a third-party system called Zapier, and you can jump into Zapier and see what can I connect. Like, I literally go in Zapier sometimes. I think of an idea and I'm like, I wonder if I can do that. And I just search in there to say, hey, can I connect this to this? Oh, yeah, I can. Then my wheel starts turning and be like, what can I do with this? But I will give you one word of caution is that when you're setting up your automation is to make sure that you test your automation before you start getting your people running through it. Right. Because if you're getting leads and they're going through your automation that you have not yet tested, it is possible that it may not work the way you thought it was going to work. And you don't want to scare anybody off like, hold on, why is she sending me a bill for $3,000 and I don't even know her, So like you want to make sure, or this is not even what I asked for, Mm-hmm. So definitely make sure that you test your automation. Always test your automation. Never let it go live without you testing it first.
Yeah. That's so good. Okay, real quick. If you've been showing up on socials and still not getting the results you want, I want you to listen up because I'm offering free social media audits exclusively for my Side Hustler listeners. If you're not sure if your page is actually attracting the right clients or if your content feels all over the place, or you just want to make sure that you're on the right track when it comes to building your brand, I got you. These audits are where I go in and I look at your page and I give you the personalized feedback on what's working, what needs to shift, and how to start creating content that actually converts. I'll also drop a few tips and strategies that most people aren't sharing because I want to see you win. And the best part about it, it's free, my friend. So head over to cdcreativecoagency.com/audit and secure your audit today. And I'm laughing because I just created a new automation like a couple of days ago and I did test it, but then I accidentally had something like checked off to where one of the persons that received that automation was not like even in that category. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So I laugh because, it does happen.
Yeah, it does. Trust and believe. It does. It happens to all of us. So it definitely happens. I normally will have like one of my other email addresses in my account. Yes. So I can test it. And if I know I'm doing a lot of automations to something, I'll typically do it kind of like late at night where I know no one should be going through like most people aren't going at 2 a.m. and doing something. So it's like, okay, let me kind of do this a little late to kind of test it out. But yeah, definitely test out your automation.
That is hilarious. I kind of want to get into like the business owners that kind of are have that mindset of fear and not feeling safe to like delegate those things. Like they're like, oh no, like I just have to, put my hands on everything. They feel like it's a hard task for them to put into the hands of a system or even someone else. So how do you help someone that's in this place of wanting to start automating, but has the fear of letting go and trusting a system to handle the heavy loads of their business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, just kind of clarifying with the system, it is something that typically as the business owner that you may have created yourself, right? So this isn't something that you're just handing over to just for it to just create itself, and you're customizing this the way that you want it to operate. And so at most points of business, there's going to be a couple of things that you're going to do is that you are going to automate. I forgot the quote, but it's similar to that. You never want to delegate something that could be automated. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I don't want to go through and hire someone to do a job that literally I could have just automated that and I didn't
Yeah.
have to delegate this to someone else. I didn't have to hire them to do it because I can actually go through and automate it. It's kind of like if I was hiring a virtual assistant to send out an email to say thank you for your inquiry. Why would I do that? Like
Yeah.
I can simply automate that, right? And so when you think about setting up automation or determining whether or not you're going to delegate something, is anything that can be automated, you want to go through and you want to try to automate it. And again, with caution, making sure that you do go through and test it. There's so many tools and systems out here because sometimes what I'll hear people say is that they don't want to automate because they feel like it takes away the personalization of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be true depending on what you're using, but I know that with like I use HoneyBook and all of it can be custom to that person. So they have what's called what is it called? It's called smart. It's like a smart section or whatever. I forgot the exact term for it, but it will fill in the client's name. It can fill in project details.
Oh yeah, the smart field.
Yeah, the smart field. So it can fill those in where I can send an email that says, hey, Kenniqua, thank you for your inquiry at 2 a.m., right? That's personalized, right? It has that person's name on it and is personalized. So I think that sometimes is the fear of what people go through. They think that it's not going to be personalized. Like, oh, I have to personalize it for my people. You can make it personalized, even going through and automating it. So I wouldn't worry about too much about worrying about going through and automating something because it's going to save you so much more time. It's going to save you so much more time. I mean, just imagine what you could do with the time that you have that you're not having to go through and send out a manual invoice. You're not having to go through and dig through your email to say what happened to that conversation I had with that person last week, or try to find that file that you had in your Google Drive folder. So like when you weigh the pros and the cons of it and how much more you could be getting done and actually operating your zone of genius, because a lot of us, our job is not to be the admin person to do all these things. Like we just want to do the thing we want to do. Like if you're an event decorator, you just want to decorate. You know, you don't want to have to deal with the admin stuff.
Yeah.
But because you're in business, you know you have to do the admin stuff, but you don't want to be in the weeds of having to do this stuff. So it'll definitely free up your time. So definitely go through and try to automate and streamline your processes as much as you can and start to do that.
Yeah. I kind of want to get into a little rapid fire. I know this is like, spontaneous, but I love like hitting my guests with rapid fire questions because I think it's so funny. So my first question is, are you a morning person or a late owl?
I am a late. I want to say I am a late person. I am trying not to be so much of a late person, but I am. I probably am more so a late person.
Yeah, same. Okay. What's your favorite go-to morning beverage?
Oh, iced coffee.
For sure. Same. Your favorite email service provider?
Well, I am using Kit right now, so formerly known as ConvertKit. So I'm using Kit. I do love Kit. I am the person that does like the design of flow desks as well. So, but yeah, I'm using ConvertKit. I feel like I've been using them for about 6-7 years. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, after that, once you're loyal to a company, it's kind of hard for you to switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. What's your favorite automation within your business?
I would probably say onboarding because like that's like that first inquiry. So I would say the inquiry stage because that's the first part of how they kind of get like a taste into your world. So yeah, I would say probably the inquiry.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, the last one is your least favorite or most delegated task.
So my least favorite task, honestly, is probably creating short form content.
I love that. I love that. Well, Kenniqua, before you go, I wanted to give you a chance to also offer one piece of advice to an entrepreneur who wants to set up their systems and wants to be better with having more efficient systems, but they don't know where to start. What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Just get started. Start with, I would say, probably the first thing that someone does to get in contact with you. everything else you can kind of start building as you go. So if someone goes to your website inquires about your services, what's the next thing that they have to do? So start there, and then as they're going through the process, start building it out from there. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, too, just writing it down. So I guess maybe I should start there. It's writing it down first. I'm a visual person, so
Same.
I'm gonna write it down first. Let's see, what is this process gonna look like? Oh no, let's move this here and let's move that over there. So write it down where you can actually see it, visually see it, and then just start building it out. So if you get that first initial email up to them, boom, you now have that automated, then move on to the next step and just kind of build it out from there. And a lot of times I find that people don't mind seeing you kind of just build it out as you go. People don't mind that. The people are not like, oh man, she doesn't have everything automated. Like,
yeah.
They just want you to respond back to them in a decent amount of time and not take, 2-3 days to get back to them. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think people have some grace in that standpoint.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Side Hustler Podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. I think that it's really going to get people's gears turning in their business to being more efficient and building out systems to allow them to show up and have amazing customer service. But before you go, I did want to give you an opportunity to share where our listeners can connect with you and learn more about your services.
Yeah, sure. So I do have a podcast as well. So you can check out the Systems Rehab podcast. I go through there and talk all things systems and business on the podcast. And then just reach out on our website, or I guess like maybe I should say YouTube channel or something like that. But yeah, check out the podcast because most things that are going on YouTube, we put it on the podcast as well too. So that's a good place to reach.
And you can find Kenniqua on Threads too.
On Threads. I am on Threads. I am on Threads all day, every day, which is funny because I'm not really a social media person at all.
Really?
No, I just spoke with someone the other day and she's like, are you engaging on Instagram? And I'm like, no, I never, this is crazy because I'm like, I never comment on posts. I am not the commenter. And so I'm like, oh, so I need to engage. Okay. Yeah. And so Threads was just like, like this thing. I'm like, oh, I can easily just talk up here all day,
Yeah.
So,
and you're like dropping gems all throughout the day. Like anytime I'm logging on, like I'm always going to see one of your posts on my Threads feed. So I'm like, yeah, Kenniqua's definitely on Threads. So if you want to connect with her and you want to talk to her about systems, you can definitely connect with her on Threads.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again. It was such an honor having you on here today. And for all of our listeners, I hope that you found this episode valuable. And yeah, don't forget to connect with Kenniqua online.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Side-HustlHER Podcast. I hope you're leaving here today feeling inspired and ready to take your next step. If you love this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another side hustler who needs to hear it. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Carly Dorlin. I'd love to hear about your side hustling journey. Remember, you're doing better than you think, and your dreams are so worth it. Until next time, keep hustling, sis. You got this.